Jai Vishnuvad Paramahansa Parivajakacarya Stotra Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charanarinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Savior of the whole world, most merciful His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikho Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktarvrinda Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Purushottam Kshetra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. New Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Dwaraka Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhani Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Namai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Brahmadanga Srila Prabhupada Transcendental Book Distribution Program Ki Jai. Kali Yuga Dharma Harinam Sankirtan Nitya Ki Jai. Bhaktivedanta Institute Scientific Presentations Program Ki Jai. Samaveda Gaura Bhaktarvrinda Ki Jai. All glories assembled devotees, all glories assembled devotees, all glories assembled devotees, all glories, Lord Sweet of Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So this morning we are reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Introduction, page number 6. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Dvaita Chanda Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Dvaita Chanda Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Dvaita Chanda Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya's teachings begin from the point of surrender to Krishna. He does not pursue the paths of Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga or Hatha Yoga, but begins at the end of material existence, at the point where one gives up all material attachment. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna begins his teachings by distinguishing the soul from matter. And in the 18th chapter, he concludes at the point where the soul surrenders to him in devotion. The Mayavadis would have all talk cease there. But at that point, the real discussion only begins. As the Vedanta Sutra says at the very beginning, Athatho Brahma Jigyasa. Now let us begin to inquire about the Supreme Absolute Truth. Rupa Goswami thus praises Lord Chaitanya as the most munificent incarnation of all, for he gives the greatest gift by teaching the highest form of devotional service. In other words, he answers the most important inquiries that anyone can make. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilidam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadadi Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrachadam Sagana Raghunathannitam Tam Sajivam Sadvedam Savadudam Parijana Saidam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpade Gopesa Gopika Kanda Radha Kanda Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanasute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vangcha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhya evacha Paridanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah Mukam karoti vachalam pankam langayate girim Yatkripādamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramanandamadavam Krishna Chaitanya Meswaram. So, we are actually discussing the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's understood that Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is actually the postgraduate study and actually the PhD level study of Bhakti literature. Bhagavad Gita is like the undergraduate study, then Srimad Bhagavatam is a postgraduate study, and here it is the most advanced form of literature. So, Lord Chaitanya is also known as Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayade Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurati Shema. He is the most munificent incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Once one devotee was explaining in Mayapur during the festival time. He was giving class, so he was explaining how in the pastimes of Lord Krishna, when Lord Krishna was engaged in giving charity to many people. Some occasion was there, Nanda Maharaj was asking Lord Krishna, that time is Krishna a baby, he was giving charity. So and the people were standing in line, and many of them had containers to collect charity. So then some of the servants, they were going around and checking in the line. If they did not have a proper container, they were told to go back and get proper container and come to collect charity. So this was going on, and in the meantime they noticed that Radharani was around, and she was very angry. She was very upset. So then after the whole thing was over, Krishna went to her and asked, what is the matter? Why are you so angry? We are giving charity to everyone. Then she said, yeah, but so many people were turned away because they did not have the proper containers. Then Lord Krishna thought, that is right. They have to come with some containers to get charity, Then Radharani said, she is known as the Audarya Bhav of Lord Krishna. She is the most munificent. So she said, no, nobody should be turned away. Then Krishna said, okay, this is already over now. This has already happened. In my next incarnation, I will do exactly as you wish. So that is what, so when Lord Chaitanya, that's Krishna's incarnation as Lord Chaitanya, he is distributing charity without considering whether we are proper containers, whether we can receive such charity or not, whether we are qualified or not. So this is Srimati Radharani's mercy that Krishna took the incarnation of as Lord Chaitanya. In fact, Krishna said, I will come in your mood, so that I don't have to consider. Because Lord Krishna is, of course, absolute. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is Bhagavan. So he has to maintain some discipline and strictness. So he has to consider whether somebody is qualified or not. So that's why Lord Krishna put the condition in Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam raja. Aham tvam sarva pabebhyo moksheshyami masuja. Give up all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I will protect you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. This is not an ordinary deal. Krishna is saying that you simply, whatever you have done life after life, you have done so many things. You have followed your own religion. You have followed your own mind. Now you are beginning to understand me. Now you forget whatever you have done before. Give up all those things and surrender unto me. I will protect you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. That's a big deal for all the conditioned souls. Life after life we are committed, we don't know how many more lifetimes we have to come back. And when we do not know when it will end. But he put that condition. Forget everything, surrender unto me. Then I will deliver you. So that is, so Krishna is known as Bhaktavalsala. He is giving. He is the only person who can do that. He is known as Mukunda, one who can give liberation and deliver one from the cycle of birth and death. But then there are higher principles in spiritual life that one can, liberation is good, but that is not the highest. There is something you have to do after you get liberated. There is something that you do for eternity as part of one's own existence. That is Mamaivamsho Jiva Loge Jiva Puta Sanadana Manastastan Indriyani Prakristani Karshti. Mamaivamsha, everyone is part and parcel of Krishna. So, and how is that? That is an active relation, part and parcel of Krishna. It's a loving relationship. One is eternally servant of Krishna in loving devotional service. So, Prema Pumarto Mahan, that is, the goal of life is to actually become a pure devotee of Krishna. So, when one is Yellabdva Chaparam Napam Mannidenadikam Tada, when one becomes situated in pure love of Krishna, then we can understand that it's nothing higher to be gained. So that is what is our goal. So Lord Chaitanya is coming and he is saying, he is not asking anybody to surrender or anything. Simply he is saying, chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this was Lord Chaitanya's mission. Simply wherever he went, he simply told, chant Hare Krishna. And as soon as the person starts chanting Hare Krishna, he is immediately gets a dose of bhakti, his original pure consciousness of loving service to Krishna is awakened right then and there. So that's how he is the most beneficent incarnation. He gives the whole package in the very first meeting. The very first time you are chanting Hare Krishna, and if Lord Chaitanya tells you to chant Hare Krishna, and if you do it, pure Shuddha Nam is coming in whoever is saying that. So Prabhupada makes a point. Lord Chaitanya's teaching begins from the point of surrender to Krishna. So one Shuddha Nam can actually purify us. It can extinguish all our conceptions and begin our process of bhakti. And so Lord Chaitanya's teachings begin from this point, surrender to Krishna, which Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, surrender unto me. So without having to say surrender to Krishna, he is already giving the holy name of Krishna, and everything else becomes much easier. That is the great fortune of living in these times. Just 500 years after Lord Chaitanya's appearance in the shelter of Srila Prabhupada's Hare Krishna movement. So, Prabhupada explains in this purport that this is beyond Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, and the Mayavadis cannot come anywhere near here. Where the soul surrenders unto him in devotion. Mayavadis would have all talk cease there, but at that point the real discussion only begins. This point only, real discussion begins. What is actually good for all of us, for the conditioned souls. So, as the Vedanta Sutra says at the very beginning, Adado Brahma Jitnasa. Now let us begin to inquire about the Supreme Absolute Truth. So that point is made. Rupa Goswami thus praises Lord Chaitanya as the most beneficent incarnation of all, for he gives the greatest gift by teaching the highest form of devotional service. In other words, he answers the most important inquiries that anyone can make. So, living in this age of Kali, and then coming to the greatest discussions than anyone can have in the creation. That is a great one. That is why it is said, Kalor dosha nite rachan. This Kali Yuga is full of all faults. Asti hego mahan gunaha. But there is one great quality of Kali Yuga. That is, Kirtanadeva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Paramraja. Simply by congregational chanting of the holy names of Krishna, one can achieve the highest destination. Mukta Sangha Paramraja. Param means the highest destination. Transcendental, beyond this material existence. Let's continue reading. There are different stages of devotional service and God realization. Strictly speaking, anyone who accepts the existence of God is situated in devotional service. To acknowledge that God is great is something, but not much. Lord Chaitanya, preaching as an acharya, a great teacher, taught that we can enter into a relationship with God and actually become God's friend, parent, or lover. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna showed Arjuna his universal form because Arjuna was his very dear friend. Upon seeing Krishna as the Lord of the universes, however, Arjuna asked Krishna to forgive the familiarity of his friendship. Lord Chaitanya goes beyond this point. Through Lord Chaitanya, we can become friends with Krishna, and there will be no limit to this friendship. We can become friends of Krishna not in awe or adoration, but in complete freedom. We can even relate to God as his father or mother. This is a philosophy not only of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but of Srimad Bhagavatam as well. There are no other scriptures in the world in which God is treated as the son of a devotee. Usually God is seen as the Almighty Father who supplies the demands of his sons. The great devotees, however, sometimes treat God as a son in their execution of devotional service. The son demands and the father and mother supply. And in supplying Krishna, the devotee becomes like a father or mother. Instead of taking from God, we give to God. It was in this relationship that Krishna's mother, Yashoda, told the Lord, "Here, eat this, or you will die. Eat nicely." In this way, Krishna, although the proprietor of everything, depends on the mercy of his devotee. This is a uniquely high level of friendship in which the devotee actually believes himself to be the father or mother of Krishna. So this is a very important point being made here, explained so nicely by Srila Prabhupada. Many times in outside society there is this so-called great discussion in which people think that God has got everything. Why do we have to, spend money on temples and giving to God? There are so many poor people. People are dying, people are losing their apartments. There are so many people suffering. We should be helping them. God has got everything. He doesn't need anything. Why do God will be happy if we give to the poor people? Of course, Kali Yuga is also full of hypocrisy. They will only talk like that. They will not actually do anything for such people also. But when it comes to philosophical discussion, they will say such things. Or they will quote from some story saying that this person gave, he was going to the temple to do some tulaba or something. And then somebody suddenly, he found out that one poor family, somebody is going to die. So instead of going to the temple, he gave the money to such people. But the point is, like it is explained here, God has got everything, but it's just like the father has got everything and he brings some nice sweets home. When he comes home, then he gives it to the son. Then if the son takes the sweet, and if he takes the first sweet and give it back to his father, how much he will feel. It's not that the father cannot get that sweet. He is the one who brought everything. But if the son gives one sweet back to the father in love, he appreciates that love. He will be very happy with the son. It's the same way Krishna is giving us everything. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Rasviyar ji ki jai, Sita Ram Lakshman Bhakta Hanuman ji ki jai. So life after life, Krishna has given everything for us, for all of us. Then he has created the planet, he has given the sun, he has given the drinking water, he is giving the rains. And we are not paying any taxes or duties on any of these things. But everything is coming. As long as one lives, people live religious life, all these things are coming nicely. And if people live a sinful life like it is all over the world now, without regard to religion and scriptures, then you can also expect that kind of trouble that will be given by material nature, like war and environmental pollution and all kinds of things that are going on nowadays. So Krishna is giving. And Krishna is saying, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachadi Tadaham Bhakti Vardam Asnami Prayadalpna. Krishna is actually asking in Bhagavad Gita, give me a little flower, fruit or water. I will accept if it is offered with love and devotion. Since Krishna is asking all everyone to do that. So he is asking, so even though he has got everything, he is asking, but he is asking for this love. And that's the only thing actually we can give. Because everything, Krishna owns everything. So what can we actually give? We cannot give everything. Everything is owned by Krishna. But Krishna has given us little minute independence. So with that minute independence, we have the choice, we have the free will to love Krishna or love everything else. So Krishna is saying, give up all your love for everything else and just love me. In that way, we will be happy and Krishna will be pleased. So therefore, in many religions, the idea of God is that God is something great, someone great, old man with beard and everything, or very powerful. Even in Vedic tradition, we have this conception. Vishnu is very powerful. We have many temples where Vishnu is worshipped with awe and reverence. But with the advent of Lord Chaitanya, more intimate relations with God is actually revealed. So Krishna that is why Prabhupada says in the Bhagavatam that the conception of the absolute truth and conception of God is not on the same level. In the introduction to Bhagavatam, Prabhupada makes a statement. Because Krishna is a lot more than being God. Krishna is actually, so Krishna, a devotee can have so-called quite informal relationship with God. That idea is not there in most religions. Most religions think that when you come to God, you have to be very well-behaved and you have to be always do this and very strict. Of course, those things are also there. But once you follow the rules and regulations, then you can have, Krishna is actually our best friend. Krishna is actually our best lover. You can confide in Krishna. He will look after you. Even if you don't tell him to look after me, he will look after you. That's how the Gopas, when they saw the Aghasura, they said, this is something very interesting, let us get inside. And then somebody said, no, but this may be some demon or something. Then they very happily they walked inside. Anyway, Krishna is there, he will. And then Krishna entered last and then fulfilled the desire of his devotees. So that kind of informal relations with Krishna, that is more intimate relation with Krishna, that is revealed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially. So servitude, first there is a servitude, then there is friendship, then there is parental relationship, neutrality, first neutrality, then dasya, then sakya, then parental relationship, and then conjugal relationship. So which is the highest? So Lord Chaitanya has come and revealed all this, even the highest knowledge to all of us, even though we are not qualified. So therefore, Prabhupada has explained how Mother Yashoda thinking that Krishna, you eat this, otherwise you will die. Actually, Krishna is not going to die, but you cannot ask that kind of logical questions in this relationship. The mother, Yashoda, is a pure devotee of Krishna, and she is thinking, I am mother of Krishna. She is not worried about whether Krishna is God or whether Krishna can show universal form or anything like that. Arjuna also, Arjuna is always eternally friend of Krishna. So he was always dealing with Krishna on an equal level. So that was going on nicely. Then in the beginning of Kurukshetra war, he said on friendly terms, look Krishna, I am not interested in this kingdom. Why do you ask me to fight? I don't want to fight. But then he also realized that there is something wrong in what I am saying here, because we have gone through so many years of 12 years in the forest and everything, with the purpose of regaining the kingdom. Then he said, Karpanya dosha bhagada subhava. I am bewildered. Please, I accept you as my spiritual master. I am your disciple. Then instruct me. So as the Lord Krishna was explaining everything, at one point he wanted to see the universal form of Krishna, because he has said, Rishis have said, you are a great person and all that. So please show me the universal form. Once he saw the universal form, he was overwhelmed with respect and fear even. No, you don't show me all this. I cannot handle this. So then he had to pray to Krishna. Please go back to your Saumya Vapu, two-handed form. I can relate to you as a friend. I cannot relate to you in the universal form. I am so scared. So that is the level of friendship Arjuna has with Krishna. But in Mother Yashoda's case also, Krishna showed the universal form. And then she for a moment thought, then she started praying to Lord Narayana and everything, what is this I am seeing? But then she did not have to pray to Krishna to go back to the baby form. Krishna understood that if I continue with this universal form, my mother will have, my relation with Mother Yashoda will be something else. Better I behave myself, I become a baby and she will love me. So, Mother Yashoda, so that is the different levels of intimacy with Krishna we can see here in this paragraph between Arjuna and Mother Yashoda. So let's read on. Yeah, this is a uniquely high level of friendship in which the devotee actually believes himself to be the father or mother of Krishna. However, Lord Chaitanya's greatest gift was his teaching that Krishna can be treated as one's lover. In this relationship, the Lord becomes so much attached to his devotee that he expresses his inability to reciprocate. Krishna was so obliged to the gopis, the cowherd girls of Vrindavana, that he felt unable to return their love. I cannot repay your love, he told them. I have no more assets to give. Devotional service on this highest, most excellent platform of lover and beloved, which had never been given by any previous incarnation or Acharya, was given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, Krishnadas Kaviraj, quoting Srila Rupa Goswami, writes in the 4th verse of his book, Lord Chaitanya is Krishna in a yellow complexion, and he is Shachi Nandana, the son of Mother Shachi. He is the most charitable personality because he came to deliver Krishna Prem, unalloyed love for Krishna, to everyone. May you always keep him in your hearts. It will be easy to understand Krishna through him. So Krishna's relation with gopis is more exalted, is the most exalted, more than his relation with Mother Yashoda. Of course, all these relations are absolute, but the level of intimacy is the highest in the Gopi Bhav. So when the gopis do such devotional service to Krishna, then Krishna has to tell them, I cannot repay your love. In fact, Krishna has got everything, and he has to say that I cannot repay my debt to you. Because they are Anyabhilashi shunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam anukulyena krishnana shilanam bhaktiruttama. So gopis are the highest epitome of that mood of serving Krishna without expecting anything in return. So lesson for us is that we should try to do service to Krishna, and we should try to do in such a way that we do not expect any results. We do not expect anything in return. So anything that we do like that will always add to our spiritual life. So that I am sure most devotees also would have noticed that. We may have our material desires. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaratihi tibrena bhakti yogena yajeda purusham param. Some people are without material desires, akama, and some people have lots of material desires, sarva kama. Some people want liberation, moksha kama, udarati, tivrena bhakti yogena yajeda purusham param. Regardless of the class of the category to which we belong, the process is the same. We have to do intense devotional service, intense bhakti. Intense bhakti means at least when you are trying to do that seva, don't think about what we will get. There is no need to ask God for anything. God is our Supreme Father. He knows what we need. Just like the father in the house. The child doesn't have to go to the father and say every day, my dear father, it's good morning. Now please make sure there is breakfast for me. Make sure there is lunch for me. Father will think, what is this? I am taking care of him without asking why he is coming and telling me everything. So there is no need for prayers like, give us this day our daily bread and all that. Okay, that is, if you say that in the form of gratitude, that's a different matter. So it is like that. So gopis, whatever they do, they are not worried about. There is a pastime also in which Krishna told Narada Muni that I have a headache. Then he said, please go and find somebody. If I get the dust of the pure devotee my pure devotee and put it on my head, my headache will be gone. Then Narada Muni went to great personalities who he thought were pure devotees. So he went to Brahma and the Lord Shiva. He went to many others. Everybody said, no, how can I give the dust of my feet to my Krishna? He is the greatest. That will be a sin. I'll go to hell. So then he was not able to get it from any. He went back and told Krishna, this is the situation. Nobody is willing to give the dust off his feet. Then he said, but my headache is not going. Okay, you go and try asking the gopis. Then he went. He went to the gopis and said, so they were asking, so you are always singing glories of Krishna. How is Lord Krishna? How is our beloved Krishna? Narada Muni said, he is doing okay, but the problem is he has got a headache. Headache? What is the problem? How can we help? He says, if I get the dust of lotus feet of my devotees, then it will be cured. Then gopis said, well, if that will cure Krishna, please take some dust and give it to him. Then they were all ready. Then they said, Narada Muni said, I can do that, but you are not worried that you will go to hell? They said, if Krishna's headache will be cured, and we don't care, even if we have to spend millions of lifetimes in the hell. So they are not worried about what will happen to them. They want to serve Krishna under all circumstances. That mood, we have to imbibe that mood. Of course, in whatever little we are doing for Krishna, in our service, we have to bring in that mood. So therefore, Rupa Goswami wrote this beautiful prayer about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. May you always keep him in your hearts. It will be easy to understand Krishna through him. So actually the fact is, we can understand Krishna only through Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Like that only through Srila Prabhupada. Because Srila Prabhupada is his Senapati Bhakta. He is commander-in-chief of his devotees. Lord Chaitanya said, commander-in-chief of my devotees will come and spread this movement throughout the whole world. So, otherwise it is very difficult to understand Krishna. We have practical experience that even though we are born in India and everything, we did not have any understanding of Krishna consciousness. But Prabhupada came and he gave us teachings of Lord Chaitanya, he gave us his books. Now, all over the world, everybody has heard about Krishna, everybody knows something about Krishna, and we can understand Krishna very easily through this mercy that Lord Chaitanya has extended. We have often heard the phrase, love of Godhead. How far this love of Godhead can actually be developed can be learnt from the Vaishnava philosophy. Theoretical knowledge of love of God can be found in many places and in many scriptures. But what that love of Godhead actually is and how it is developed can be found in the Vaishnava literatures. It is the unique and highest development of love of God that is given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this how to develop love of Krishna is actually available in the Vaishnava literature, basically only in the Vaishnava literature. That is why Bhagavatam says, Dharma projita kaidavatra paramo nirmalsaranam sadam vedyam vasta matra astu shivatam tabat prayon mulanam. Dharma projita kaidava. This Bhagavatam gives up all kinds of cheating religions. Kaidava dharma. So basically, Bhagavatam is saying that whatever other scriptures you can find in this world, they talk about Kaidava dharma only. That is cheating religion, because it will not. In fact, it was given by Narada Muni, Vyasadeva. He composed so many literatures. In fact, he composed the Vedas, Vedanta Sutras, then Puranas he wrote, Upanishads, all these things he wrote, and still he was feeling something incomplete. Then Narada Muni, his spiritual master, came and he expressed his situation to Narada Muni. And Narada Muni basically chastised him by saying that you have written so many literatures, but you have not glorified Krishna and bhakti to Krishna. This is why you are not feeling happy. Then Vyasadeva composed his Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the beginning itself, he has admitted that whatever else is available, it's all cheating religion. It will deprive you of the ultimate purpose of life. That's why Krishna says, don't be distracted by the flowery languages of the Vedas. So Bhagavatam is that. So all Vaishnava, of course, Bhagavatam and Vaishnava literatures means books which follow in the footsteps of Bhagavatam. So that way, following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada has given us the Vaishnava literature. And without his books, we really did not have access to Vaishnava literature. Even in this material world, we can have a little sense of love. How is this possible? It is due to the presence of our original love of God. Whatever we find within our experience, within this conditioned life, is situated in the Supreme Lord, who is the ultimate source of everything. In our original relationship with the Supreme Lord, there is real love. And that love is reflected pervertedly through material conditions. Our real love is continuous and unending. But because that love is reflected pervertedly in this material world, it lacks continuity and is inebriating. If you want real transcendental love, we have to transfer our love to the supreme lovable object, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining very nicely that loving someone is our constitutional feature that cannot be taken away from us. We have to love somebody. So in the material life also, Krishna has arranged for our material life. In that also he gives us facility to love someone. So that is there in the material life also. But Krishna says, this is Uddhamulam Adashagam Ashratam Prahuraviyam Chandamsi Asya Parnani Astam Vedasa Vedavet. This material life, material world is a perverted reflection of original spiritual life. So the main difference is that in the material world you can have love, but it will not be continuous. It will be broken. By the laws of material nature, it will be broken. And at different stages of life, we have different loving propensities. First we are loved by our parents, then later on we try to find some partner, then later on it becomes, love goes to the son, grandson, like that. And even if many times even it is difficult to find a smooth, loving relationship with the others in the material life. And even if that happens, so to speak, then also it will end. So birth and death is there. At the time of death, that will be broken. Then will the same thing that was giving us so much pleasure will give us pain. When some loving person departs, it will give us pain. That is because our love is reposed on something that is not permanent. Whereas our original loving propensity is actually to love Krishna. So if you love Krishna, then there will always be a continuity of that loving relationship. So, and Krishna is a supremely lovable object. Why not? He is the most Suhridam Sarva Bodhanam Jnatamam Shantim Rachati. Jnatamam Shantim Rachati. What is that verse? Bhaktanam Yatna Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarva Bodhanam Jnatamam Shantim Rachati. He is actually the Suhrit. Suhrit means one who always is your well-wisher. One who is always your well-wisher. Therefore Prabhupada used to write, your ever well-wisher. Nobody else can claim that except the Acharya. Because the Acharya is eternal. His teachings are eternal. His relationship with the devotee is also eternal. It can never be broken. So it's our great fortune to come in contact with an Acharya, and we should put all our heart and effort into establishing the loving relationship with the Acharya. So such a person can claim you are ever well-wisher. Krishna is saying, because Krishna ultimately, the Acharya is giving us the friendship of Krishna. So, Suhridam Sarva Bhudanam. So, if a person, in fact, Prabhupada was asked, he was in a flight, and then the captain of the flight came and sat with Prabhupada. He understood that there is a saintly person inside. So, he came and sat. This was flying over United States. So, he came and asked, if I have to understand, if I have to take one sloka from your book, Bhagavad Gita, which one will you recommend? And Prabhupada gave this verse, Bhaktaram Yatana. If you understand three things, you can attain eternal peace. That God is the supreme proprietor of everything. And He is the supreme enjoyer. And He is your best friend. This is another problem. Actually, the position of enjoyment is actually only for Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. In material world, we are trying to love someone who really cannot enjoy. He is not qualified to enjoy another person in the material world. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. So, and Prabhupada said this is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. That is loving Krishna. How to develop love of Krishna. In material consciousness, we are trying to love that which is not at all lovable. We give our love to cats and dogs, running the risk that at the time of death, we may think of them and consequently take birth in a family of cats or dogs. Our consciousness at the time of death determines our next life. That is one reason why the Vedic scriptures stress the chastity of women. If a woman is very much attached to her husband, at the time of death, she will think of him. And in the next life, she will be promoted to a man's body. Generally, a man's life is better than a woman's because a man usually has better facilities for understanding the spiritual science. So, yeah, this is a problem we touched upon, that in the material life, we are trying to love someone or something which is not worthy of our love. And in fact, if you go to the beach, sometimes you can see many people are so much effort they put to take care of their dogs, walking the dog, literally being a servant. They are worried, and sometimes, and many times in the family there are not enough people. The person is worried, who will take care of my dog if I go on a trip? Or they want to take the dog with them in the flight and so on. But this kind of consciousness will actually be quite degrading, because whatever we do during our life, that will formulate our consciousness at the time of death. So if you are always thinking of all things connected in the material world, naturally if we are taking care of dog, and that will be in our mind also at the time of death. Prabhupada said those who do not serve God, they will have to serve the dog. So either God consciousness or dog consciousness. So that is, so the risk is then you can become a dog in your next life. You can take birth in a family of dogs or cats. And continue in this cycle of birth and death in the 8,400,000 species of life. Whereas if you worship Krishna, if you serve Krishna, at the time of death, naturally we are going to think of Krishna, and Krishna will take us to the next higher destination in Krishna consciousness. So that is very important. Of course, Prabhupada also says about man and woman, but it's actually Prabhupada's mercy that in ISKCON movement, it has given actually equal facility to both men and women to serve Krishna and make wonderful progress in spiritual life. But Krishna, I'll just send a message. But Krishna consciousness is so nice that it makes no distinction between man and woman. In the Bhagavad Gita 9:32, Lord Krishna says, anyone who takes shelter of me, whether a woman, Shudra, Vaishya or anyone else of low birth is sure to achieve my association. This is Krishna's guarantee. Well, so that point is made by Prabhupada in the very next line. Mamhi pata vibhasitya ebisyu papayoneya striyo vaisyos tada shudras debi andi parangati. So Krishna is giving the guarantee, regardless of man or woman, one can actually achieve the highest destination. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informs us that in every country and in every scripture, there is some hint of love of Godhead. But no one knows what love of Godhead actually is. The Vedic scriptures, however, are different in that they can direct the individual in the proper way to love God. Other scriptures do not give information on how one can love God, nor do they actually define or describe what or who the Godhead actually is. Although they officially promote love of Godhead, they have no idea how to execute it. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives a practical demonstration of how to love God in a conjugal relationship. Taking the part of Srimati Radharani, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tried to love Krishna as Radharani loved him. Krishna was always amazed by Radharani's love. How does Radharani give me such pleasure? He would ask. In order to study Radharani, Krishna lived in her role and tried to understand himself. This is a secret of Lord Chaitanya's incarnation. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, but he has taken the mood and role of Radharani to show us how to love Krishna. Thus the author writes in the 5th verse, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, who is absorbed in Radharani's thoughts. So this is the introduction to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prabhupada makes the point that there may be other scriptures which talk about love of Godhead. In fact, all scriptures talk about essence of, Prabhupada said the essence of all religions is to love God. That idea is there, even in Christianity also, the idea is there, love God with all your heart and everything. But the problem is that they do not explain who is God, what are his features and characteristics. Therefore, even though the idea is there that we should love God, and for that we are given many injunctions that we should follow this, we should love your neighbor, we should not kill. This kind of idea there in Christianity, thou shalt not kill. So we are told to do so many rules and regulations, but we are not told who is Krishna. Because if you want to love someone, first thing is we have to hear about him. The more we hear about that person, we will develop an attraction for that person. So that is the advantage of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada has given us so many books in which we hear about the pastimes of Krishna. And by hearing about Krishna, we develop attraction for Krishna. Just like Rukmini Devi, she heard about Krishna. And by hearing about Krishna, she became a lover of Krishna. She had not even seen Krishna up to that point. She became lover of Krishna so much so that she wrote a letter requesting Krishna to come and kidnap her. Or even the wives of the Brahmins also. They also were chaste women who were living in their houses and serving their husbands. They did not know the outside world, but they heard about Krishna and became lover of Krishna. We just went through those portions in Bhagavatam. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming and he is delivering all of us, whether we are qualified or not. At the same time, he is also demonstrating the highest form of love of Krishna. Because highest form of love of Krishna is actually exhibited by Srimati Radharani, the Hladini Shakti of Krishna, internal potency of Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya came in the mode of Srimati Radharani. He was actually demonstrating the role of Srimati Radharani. and he is giving us the highest standard. So that is summarized in the 5th verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, who is absorbed in Radharani's thoughts. So, continue reading. This brings up this question of who Srimati Radharani is and what Radha Krishna is. Actually, Radha Krishna is the exchange of love, but not ordinary love. Krishna has immense potencies. Of his 3 are principal: the internal, the external, and the marginal potencies. In the internal potency, there are 3 divisions: Samvit, Hladini, and Sandini. The Hladini potency is Krishna's pleasure potency. All living entities have this pleasure-seeking potency, for all beings are trying to have pleasure. This is the very nature of the living entity. At present, we are trying to enjoy our pleasure potency by means of the body in the material condition. By bodily contact, we are attempting to derive pleasure from material sense objects. But we should not entertain the nonsensical idea that Krishna, who is always spiritual, also tries to seek pleasure on this material plane. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes the material universe as non-permanent place full of miseries. Why then would he seek pleasure in matter? He is the super soul, the supreme spirit, and his pleasure is beyond the material conception. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining very nicely about Srimati Radharani and who is Radha Krishna. It's actually the exchange of love. Love means the love between Srimati Radharani and Lord Krishna. So this is actually love. So, but Radharani is actually Krishna's own pleasure potency. So, in one sense, there is no difference between Radha and Krishna. Radha Krishna Nai Anya. That is, Lord Chaitanya is Radha and Krishna combined. So, their love is the highest standard. We cannot imitate that love, but each of us, conditioned soul, also have a chance to come to that highest standard of loving Krishna when we become completely unmotivated. Ahaidiki apradiyada yayatma suprasitati. By rendering loving devotional service, which is not motivated, we can also get a taste of this supreme, sublime love between Radha and Krishna in our own relationship with Krishna. In fact, Radharani is trying to bring all the conditioned souls back to Krishna. That's what we said in the beginning of the class. She wanted Krishna to give love of Krishna to everyone without considering qualifications. To learn how Krishna enjoys pleasure, we must study the first 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, and then we should study the 10th canto, in which Krishna's pleasure potency is displayed in his pastimes with Radharani and the damsels of Vraja. Unfortunately, unintelligent people turn at once to the sports of Krishna in the Dashamaskanda, the 10th canto. Krishna's embracing Radharani or his dancing with the cowherd girls in the Rasa dance are generally not understood by ordinary men, because they consider these pastimes in the light of mundane lust. They foolishly think that Krishna is like themselves and that he embraces the gopis just as an ordinary man embraces a young girl. Some people thus become interested in Krishna because they think that his religion allows indulgence in sex. This is not Krishna Bhakti, love of Krishna, but Prakrita Sahajiya, materialistic lust. So, Krishna is described as being full in all the 6 opulences. Aishwaryasya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, Yasasasriyaha, Jnana Vairagyo, Seva, Shannambaga, Idingana. Krishna is full of all the riches. He is the most beautiful is the most powerful, is the most famous, and one of the six opulences also that is the most renounced. Renunciation, there cannot be renunciation unless one is totally free from mundane lust, mundane sex life. So that is Bhagavan. That is how he is known as Bhagavan. That is why he is Krishna. Krishna is totally free from sex desire. So there is also that story that goes around that Narada Muni, not Narada Muni, Durvasa. Durvasa Muni, the gopis came to Durvasa Muni and they had to cross the river. And one of the things he said that if you simply say that Krishna is the topmost brahmachari, then you will be able to cross the river. So they said that and they were able to actually cross the rivers. So that is actually the truth. Krishna is the topmost brahmachari, even though he is, even though he is married to so many 16,108 wives and had so many gopis as his friends. But these are all on the transcendental platform. That's why Prabhupada explains that we have to first go through the 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam before we actually try to understand or read about Krishna's pastimes with the gopis. But then same time, so that devotees try to do that. Of course, then Prabhupada himself wrote the Krishna book, in which he takes us, in which he kind of gives us a shortcut to read Krishna's pastimes simply by reading his books. He is giving us a chance to read Krishna's most intimate pastimes also in the Krishna book. So the usual procedure is the first 9 cantos should be understood. We have to go through systematically. Otherwise, if we simply approach Krishna's pastimes thinking that this is the same, this is similar to my having a relation with the opposite sex, then that will be quite degrading for us. That is called Prakrita Sahajiya. That is materialistic lust. We can understand Krishna only to the extent that we are free from mundane lust, Kama, Krodha, and so we have to become free from greed and lust and anger, Kama, Krodha and Moha. So to avoid such a rush, we should understand what Radha Krishna actually is. Radha and Krishna display their pastimes through Krishna's internal energy. The pleasure potency of Krishna's internal energy is a most difficult subject matter, and unless one understands what Krishna is, one cannot understand it. Krishna does not take any pleasure in this material world, but he has a pleasure potency. Because we are part and parcel of Krishna, the pleasure potency is within us also, but we are trying to exhibit that pleasure potency in matter. Krishna, however, does not make such a vain attempt. The object of Krishna's pleasure potency is Radharani. Krishna exhibits his potency as Radharani and then engages in loving affairs with her. In other words, Krishna does not take pleasure in this external energy, but exhibits his internal energy. His pleasure potency as Radharani, Krishna does not take pleasure in this external energy, but exhibits his internal energy, his pleasure potency as Radharani, and then enjoys with her. Thus, Krishna manifests himself as Radharani in order to enjoy his internal pleasure potency. Of the many extensions, expansions, and incarnations of the Lord, this pleasure potency is the foremost and chief. So, that is explained very nicely that Radha Krishna's loving affairs are completely on the spiritual platform. Time. Okay, Hare Krishna. So, I will stop here. Anybody has any questions or comments? Yes, Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the wonderful class, Prabhu. In the introduction, Srila Prabhupada mentions Krishna depends on the mercy of the devotee. Can you expand on this?
What is Krishna?
Krishna depends on the mercy of the devotee. Can you expand on this point? I think he's saying it from the point of view where Mother Yashoda is...
Right.
Yes.
So, that is that's the internal, that is called Yogamaya. Krishna depends on the mercy of his devotee because he has now become as baby Krishna. So baby is always under the shelter of someone. And unless Krishna manifests that mood, the relation between him and his mother will lack some genuineness. So for that relation to be perfect and genuine, Krishna acts as dependent on mother. In fact, in that pastime, he is actually dependent on the mother, Yashoda's chastisement, her giving him food, everything, dressing him up, everything. So that way he is manifesting a perfect pastime in which the baby is actually dependent on the mother. And the love between them is most perfect.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So, any other question or comments? So, we will stop here. Already it's a little late. Hare Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai.